Good morning, Morai v'Rabotai, Bruchim Abayim. We are continuing on Masechet Succah, and we are on top of Daf Chaf Vav, Amud Aleph. The second line to this Amud is being learned as a Zchut Rufah Shelema for Esther Bracha Bat Chaya, for Nisim Ben Miriam, Rachel Simcha Bat Nahid, Joanna Bat Rebecca, that you all have Refuah Shelema Be'ezrat Hashem. Amen. This week's learning of the community has been dedicated by Shei family, Cohen family, Dayan families. It should be an ultimate zchut for all of their mishpachot. Amen. And of course, our tefillot go out to people who have been and are affected with the current situation with the fires. That Hashem should all be safe, and those who have been injured should be recovering. Amen. Okay, we are amidst a classic sugya of Osek be mitzvah patur min mitzvah. We had the Mishnah, the shluchei mitzvah paturim min sukkah. If you are involved in any which way with doing a mitzvah, currently you're going to be patur from the sukkah. And now we continue, says the Gemara, it's not only the people who are actively doing the mitzvah, but kotvei sfarim. Amar Rab Chananya ben Akavya. Rab Chananya ben Akavya said, the sofrim, a person that's a sofer, is writing tefillin, mezuzah, sefer Torah, hen v'tagarehen, themselves, their merchants, and their merchants. In other words, if you're a sofer, or you are a wholesaler who buys from the sofrim and provides for the community, or you are a retailer that buys from those wholesalers and provided for the individuals, it's going to be a reason for all of them to be patur for all the mitzvot. V'chol ha'oskin b'melechet shamayim. Anyone that is doing something l'shem shamayim for the community, again, there are those who say this is only when they're doing it for free, not necessarily. But tagarehen, again, they're certainly buying and selling. If it's something that is the need that they're providing for the community, would be reason for them to be absolved from the mitzvah, at least the moments that they are working to provide these items of mitzvah for other people. Says the Gemara, and that is la tuyed kol haoskin b'melechet shamayim, is coming to add mochret techelet, people who sell techelet, which really means, we had earlier on in the Yud Aleph that tichla means not just the techelet as the blue one, but really the whole tzitzit is called techelet as well. Again, this would be very interesting because this is an additional piece, mochret techelet, from the Gemara to the Braita. So this is an Amoraic edition, which would mean, if you translate this as Tchelet, that certainly Amorai would be another source. There are other ones as well in the Gemara that Amorai already had in their time. Tchelet still was available, which gets into the great debate about the Tchelet that has been for past over 100 years, from the Radziner Rav, who felt that the cuttlefish is the source for Tchelet. There's still some people who very strongly follow that, even though that it has been disproved basically, and now the up and coming for past few decades has been the Tchelet, which is known as the Murex trunkless, from a snail, a sea snail. Really, the truth is in Arabic, in Farsi, in all the Eastern languages, chilazon actually is still halazun, would be a snail. So that would be a very interesting conversation, obviously way out of the league of this shiur as a side thing that the Gemara says. But nevertheless, if you are providing even talit and tzitziot for the people, that would be even included in this. Now, why is this, by the way, a big chidush that this is lerabot la'atuyeh mochret techelet? Because really tzitzit is not, I mean, at least nowadays, it's not a mitzvah chiyuvit. You're not obligated to wear tzitzit every day, just like you are obligated to wear tefillin every day. Tzitzit is, if you have a four-cornered garment, then you can't wear it unless you have tzitzit on it. But if you round the corners, so they're no longer four-cornered, then you're absolved. You don't have to be wearing tzitzit. The reason we wear tzitzit every day is because the Tosafot learned this Masechet Shabbat from Moshe Rabbeinu. Just like Moshe Rabbeinu wanted to go so badly to Eretz Yisrael, he loved the opportunity of mitzvah so much that he davened 515 times. Well, he wanted to go have Jaffa, oranges. No, he wanted to go do the mitzvot at Luyot Baris. The Tosafot asked the obvious question, says patur from the mitzvot. He doesn't have the obligation. You only are obligated to do the mitzvot if you live in Eretz Yisrael. You don't live in Eretz, so you don't have the mitzvot. You don't have the mitzvot, you don't have to do them. It's a fair question. Tosafot says no. He was yearning to make himself obligated to those mitzvot and to do them. Gain opportunities of the mitzvah. So it says that's why we wear it, because we want to show that we love the mitzvah. We bring ourselves towards the chiyuv of the mitzvah in order to be able to do it. So the Gemara says, even though that it is not an obligation, even though that's not an obligation, but HaKadosh Baruch Hu checks this out when a judgment is stretched on that person individually or on the community. That's the time that those things, like the tzitzit, come into account. Hashem looks to see, you didn't care enough about wearing tzitzit, talit katan. For the Sfaradim would be wool talit katan even, because according to Marash Charuch, all the other ones are only the Rabbanan. Only wool is the Oraita. Nowadays we have good, soft and stretchy, very smooth wool ones, so no excuses. Sfaradim should be. Rabbanan Kotler used to say even the Ashkenazim, the Frum Yeshiva man should be wearing a wool talit katan, but nevertheless, that's when HaKadosh Baruch Hu looks and says, you didn't do it, so that's not good, that you didn't care enough to bring the obligation upon yourself. The equivalent of that would be nowadays also for Kohanim. The obligation for a Kohen to give a bracha, because Kohanim, is not a daily obligation unless they call him. They call Kohanim. So if you daven, if you opt to daven in a minyan that does not have that, so then you're not obligated. But the very fact that you opt to daven there, especially if your minhag is to do it because you're from Eretz Yisrael, even for Ashkenazim or for Sfaradim, even Chutz La'aretz, that would be like opting not to wear talit katan. So those are the mitzvot that we bring upon us. Hence the addition in the Gemara that it's coming la'atuyet l'rabot, it's coming to add mochre techelet, which means people who are providing tzitzit for the community, says, but all of those are patur from the mitzvot. Now, this is very interesting, because, as we'll see in the Gemara, this is not your regular osek be mitzvah patur mina mitzvah. Says the Gemara, these people, the people who are sofrim, they're providing the tefillin, mezuzot, sefer Torah, even tzitzit for people. They are pturim mikriyat Shema, they are patur from Shema, minat tefillah, minat tefillin, umikol mitzvot ha'amurot b'Torah. They are patur from everything, right? Why? Lekayem divrei Rabbi Yossi HaGalili, shaya Rabbi Yossi HaGalili omer, ha'osek b'mitzvah patur mina mitzvah. This is to establish and reinforce what Rabbi Yossi HaGalili used to say, that ha'osek b'mitzvah patur mina mitzvah. Now the question Aruch Laner asks, Rabbi Etlinger, he asks, wait a second, we know how osek b'mitzvah patur mina, we have been talking about it literally for the entire past staff. So what's the kayem mashenemar or Rabbi Yossi HaGalili? What's Rabbi Yossi HaGalili doing? So says the Aruch Laner, because over here it's an additional aspect. Normally when we talk about osek b'mitzvah patur mina mitzvah, we're talking about a fellow that's doing mitzvot himself. I'm busy doing mitzvah. I am busy doing something that is considered a mitzvah for me. I'm patur from doing it. Over here, I'm not doing anything. I am providing the opportunity for you to put on tefillin, for you to have mezuzah, for you to have sefer Torah. I'm not doing it myself. I'm a businessman, a tagar, a merchant that trying to provide the opportunity of tefillin, mezuzot, and sefer Torah or tzitzit for other people. And even that is considered osek b'mitzvah. When you care about other people doing mitzvot, when you're providing the opportunity for them to do the mitzvah, it's considered osek b'mitzvah. You are considered doing a mitzvah when you are trying to get other people to do the mitzvah. That's a tremendous chiddush, says the Aruch Laner. Think about it in the terms of you are learning yourself. That's osek b'mitzvah. You get somebody else to come to the Daf Yomi, to the Amud Yomi. Then you're providing it for other people. Imagine if a person is drowning, right? And you want to save them. Now someone that's drowning is not learning. He's not learning Torah, right? And you have every community, every shul, you have people like that, right? And all it takes is send them a text message, give them a call, and push them to come. Talk to the people to encourage them to learn. That is matzil nefesh achad misrael. You're saving them from drowning. That's not less than this. You are providing the opportunity of doing mitzvah for other people to do them. You know, the Shlach Kadosh says, when you have a mitzvah of hashavat avedah, he says, doing kiruv, bringing other people to doing mitzvot is the ultimate hashavat avedah, says the Shlach Kadosh, because you're returning his neshama to him. He's lost his neshama. He's lost his spiritual mind, so to speak. You're returning that to him. Is the greatest lost object of a person. So that you see, again, that concept you see in the Gemara over here, that not only if you're doing a mitzvah yourself, but if you get other people to do the mitzvah, if you're providing it for them, that also is considered a second mitzvah that would absolve you from doing any other mitzvah, because of the importance of what you're doing at the moment. Says the Gemara, Tanu Rabbanan, Holched derachim b'yom, peturim min sukkah b'yom, v'chayavim b'layla. If you are going on the way during the day, but at night you're resting in a proper rest stop in a proper city or town or a village, then chayavin b'layla. At night you would be chayav to sit in the sukkah, because what's your heter exactly, right? So you remember Rashi beforehand. That's the Rashi and Tosafot that we discussed. That if you're going for the mitzvah, that would be maybe a little different. Shiluchei mitzvah will be maybe a little, but here we're not talking about even a mitzvah. We're talking about a regular thing. Now, Holched derachim, if you take a look, on Rashi, the last white line starts over here. Dichtiv b'sukkot teshvu ke'en yeshivat beto. The Torah says you have to dwell in the sukkah. Yeshiva, yashav, is a very interesting verbiage in Chumash. Living, dwelling, staying somewhere, staying somewhere, is called yeshiva, right? Right? Asher yashavnu be'eretz Mitzrayim, right? It's not just sitting on a chair. It means waiting somewhere, living somewhere, dwelling in somewhere. And that is teshvu, you're living in the sukkah. The pasuk says, ken tadur, has to be like a living space. Keshem shkol hashana eno nimna melechet b'derech. If you, during the course of the entire year, well, you don't go on a path, you don't go on a trip. You do go on a trip. When you're going on a trip, are you living in your house? No, you're not living in your house. So therefore, you have the allowance of getting out of your sukkah, which is your house, during those 7 days, to go on a path, to go on a trip, says Rashi. But listen to this. One word over here says, Rashi, look inside. Keshem shekol hashana eno nimna milechet bederech lischora, quote unquote. You're going out for business. Why does Rashi add this? Rav Moshe Feinstein, in his Tshuvot Igrot Moshe Chelek Aleph, Chelek Gimel, or Chaim Siman Sadi Gimel, asks this question. He says, you know, from this you see, from this word in Rashi, you see that is only allowance of going when you absolutely need it for your business. You're not going on a leisure trip. You're not going to a Chol Moed trip, so to speak. That you're not allowed to absolve yourself from the obligation of sukkah. If on where you're going you don't have an available sukkah for yourself, you're not allowed to do that just for leisure, says Rabbi Moshe Feinstein. Rabbi Yashiv brings him in his Harot on the Masechet right over here in Chafav Amud Aleph, and disagrees with him. He says, well, who says? Right? So that normal life, if a normal family goes on trips, a normal thing, and goes out of their house because he works out, the kids are off from school and whatnot, and that's the normal haloch yelech, the day-to-day life of a family, so you're allowed to do that also. And once you go out, then you're whole chedrachim, and you're whole chedrachim, you're patur for a mitzvah of sukkah. So therefore, you don't have to necessarily go out of your way to create a makeshift sukkah because you're in whatever it is that you're going for a family trip on Chol HaMoed. You don't have to necessarily, you can eat outside of sukkah as well. Obviously, we will see some details of that in the rest of this stuff. But again, food for thought. This is Machlokes Rabbi Elyashiv and Rabbi Moshe Feinstein. The person should discuss it with the Mora Hora'ah when it comes handy Lemaaseh what to do. But all of that starts from this one word in Rashi. Rashi puts in something that he apparently doesn't have to put in there. It says you're going out there, right? Says the Gemara.
That's interesting. It's Chol HaMoed, so that's also a question.
No, that's exactly what is coming to say. That a person that's Melechet Aved, it must be Melechet Aved. If you're working, it's an absolute necessity. That's exactly what Moshe is saying, right? And Rabbi Elyashiv does away with it. Ayin Sham. So says the Gemara, Holchet Drachim Balayla. If you're traveling at night, Pturim min Sukkah Balayla. Then during the night you're patur, but if during the day you get to a rest stop, a proper place, and you want to take a nap because you've been traveling the whole night, then you are chayav besukkah bayom. Horchet drachim bayom. If you're mamash going 24/7, or it happens to be that 24 hours you're mamash traveling during the day and during the night, then pturin min sukkah ben bayom u ben balayla. Both night and day you will be patur from sukkah. Mitzvah. If you're going to do a mitzvah, pturin ben bayom u ben balayla, you will be absolved from the chiyuv of sukkah both during the day and during the night. Ki had Rav Chisda Rabba bar Huna. This is like the story that happened with Rav Chisda Rabba bar Huna, that when they were going for a mitzvah, namely, they were going to see their Rabbi, their Rosh Galuta, right? Rosh Galuta used to give a shir. Again, we mentioned before that during the course of the Chag is a mitzvah, la'akbil pelei rabo baregel, and that's why they were traveling on Chol HaMoed of Chag HaSukkot, and what they did was, ki aili b'Shabbata de rigla, on Shabbat Chol HaMoed, that they were going for Shabbat Chol HaMoed, lebe Rosh Galuta, to visit the Rosh Galuta, havugani arakta de Surah. They slept by the bank of the river of Surah. That's where they slept, outside, not in a sukkah. Amri, and they said, anan shluchim mitzvah anan upturin. And they exclaimed that they are shluchim mitzvah, they're going to do a mitzvah, and therefore they are patur from sleeping in a sukkah, because they're going to see, again, shebanu lishmoa drasha ulakbil penei Rosh Galuta. They were going to listen to the drasha that traditionally was given by the Rosh Galuta on Shabbat Chol HaMoed. Everybody would come in to listen, and they also do the mitzvah of lekabel penei rabo beregel, to visit the Rabbi on Chol HaMoed. So therefore that's considered a mitzvah as well. Amri, anan shluche, mitzvah anan upturin. Tanu Rabbana, shomrei ayir beyom. If you're guarding the city, you're standing guard, you're one of the posts of guarding the town. You usually used to have them from on top of a tower, or a watchtower, and so on. So then you will be patur from the sukkah beyom, v'chayavim belayla. At night you're not standing watch, so then you go to sleep at home, wherever you are, so then chayav besukkah. If you are the night post, then you're patur during the night, you're chayav during the day. Shomrei hayir belayla, paturim min sukkah belayla, v'chayavim beyom. But if you are both, shomrei hayir ben beyom, uben balayla, if you have a constant job of standing guard both night and day, then you're completely absolved from dwelling in the sukkah, ben bayom uben balayla. Shomrei ginot pardesim. If you are watching the gardens and fields of fruits and produce, then pturin ben bayom uben balayla. That's a 24/7 job. The animals and the ganavim, they don't work. They work around the clock. There are no shifts. They're there all the time. You turn your head and they're there. So therefore, that is a job that would absolve you from sukkah ben bayom uben balayla. I want to ask the obvious question. It says v'lavdu sukkah hatam. What's the big deal? You're watching the field. You're outdoors anyways. Just put some blanks of wood together and make a sukkah. Sit there and watch. What's the problem? In other words, the Gemara is saying, why is it not efshar lasot shnehem? You're watching, you're guarding, sit in the sukkah as well, right? Just like the burganin, the people who, they were in between towns. You could use that as sukkah, or the catchers of birds. We mentioned they could be used as sukkah, those huts that they have. Make a hut over here as well when you're guarding the city, when you're guarding the field of the fruits. Says the Gemara, two answers. Abaye said, Teshvuken taduru. You know why not? Because that's not a sukkah. This is such a temporary thing that you're making to just guard things. It's not a living space. And therefore, you can't bring your furniture, you can't bring anything of your house there. You're a guard. So therefore, it's not going to be teshvuken taduru, and therefore you're patur. You don't have to do that. Rava said, no, it's a practical reason. A guard cannot have a set place. Because you know what people say? People say, pirza kora'ale ganav. Right? When you have a hole in the wall, that hole, so to speak, calls the ganav, calls the thief to come. And here's the same thing. What happens if you know that there is a guard and the guard is in this kiosk? What happens? If you're a good thief, you go around on the other side and you enter from the other side, because you know he's not guarding the other side if he is living in this. So if you make a sukkah, all the ganavim are going to know the guy is sleeping in the sukkah over here. Around this area is not safe for me, but the other side of the wall is. And therefore, it's not the way you guard. A guard has to be, unexpected. It has to be everywhere and nowhere at the same time. It's like a mashgiach kashrut, right? If you have a date on the calendar when the mashgiach is checking the company, then the company is going to get their act together, and it's not going to be the whole element of surprise is when you actually are checking on someone. Yotzeh v'nichnas, when they don't know where to expect you, then it actually is considered guarding something. But if they know where you are and when you are where, and then it's not going to be considered really a shmirah. Therefore, says Rava, you're absolved from sukkah because you can't practically make it. It's against the definition of your job being a guard. So says the Gemara. My benayu, what's the difference between Abaya and Rava? Ika benayu de kamintar karya de peri. If you are not guarding a whole field, but you are guarding a pile of fruit, a pile of produce, it's a very defined thing right in front of you. So you could make a sukkah right next to it and watch it from where you are. There's no way for them to come from somewhere else. It's a small thing you're watching. So therefore, then, according to Rava, you would be chayav. According to Abaye, you still would be patur because this is not a comfortable place to bring your stuff and so on, and therefore you would be patur in any case. Says the Gemara, Cholim Mushamashem. This was discussion of the first aspect of the Mishnah of Shluchei Mitzvah. How sek be mitzvah patur min mitzvah. We discussed it for the last daf plus, and now we are up to the second element that our Mishnah mentioned after Shluchei Mitzvah paturin min sukkah. The Mishnah discussed that a person that's sick, right? A sick person also is absolved from dwelling in the sukkah. We learned that this chole that Mishnah talks about is not talking about someone that his life is endangered. That for sure. That pushes all the mitzvot of the Torah, right? Everything is pushed off for him. So we're not talking about that. We're talking about a person that is sick but not endangered at all. Now, chodesh bo sakana means someone that's enough in a level of discomfort, enough for him to be considered ratuk lamita. He is bed rest. He has to go rest. He can't get around with his daily life from the pain or sickness that he has. So he's not endangered, but he's not functional. We're not talking about just a regular headache that you pop ibuprofen and you're going to be good to go. We're not talking about that. We're talking about someone that has enough pain that renders them incapacitated to live a normal life. They have to go rest. That's what we're talking about. Says the Gemara, it could be as slight and subtle as chash be'enav, as someone that has a very bad eye ache, va'afilu chash be'rosho, or a bad headache. Like, imagine a very bad headache, a pounding headache without any painkillers, right? So then you're not incapacitated. You cannot really function. You have to go rest. You have to go to sleep. You go to bed. So that's what we're talking about. That's a very normal case that can happen. That would be patur from Sukkah. Amar Rabbi Shlomo Yisraeli pamachat chashti beinai bekisri. Says Rabbi Shlomo Yisraeli, one time I had a bad eye ache. I was in the city of Ketzari or Kisri. Vehitir Rabbi Yossi berebi, and Rabbi Yossi berebi is just a title of chashivut. Rabbi Yossi was matir for me. He told me Lishan, ani umesham shaychus lasukkah. Me, myself, and all of my helpers that were helping out with my situation, with my sickness, all of us, he said, we could sleep outside Sukkah because it will be considered part of this Mishnah of Choleh u'Mushameshav P'turim min HaSukkah. Rav shar le Rav Acha Bardala lemikna bekilta besukkah mishum baki. Rav gave a heter to Rav Acha Bardala to sleep in a tent, so to speak, in a kila, which we spoke before, that you can't sleep in a kila because it is in tent basically with having a roof and the sides. And yet Rav was mapped for him to sleep in a kila in Sukkah. Why? Because of buggy, right? Bucky is the same thing as bugs, right? Basically, there's a situation in which the Sukkah was infested with bugs, and mista'er patur min Sukkah. You can't sleep because they're bugging you, like pun intended, and therefore you can't. It's not a normal dwelling. You would have gotten out of your room if you had that in your room, and you go somewhere else. So you could also go out of the sukkah. So the way he said it is, you could put a kila down. This way, you're keeping the bugs out, and that would be mutar as well, because you are patur from sukkah altogether in that situation. So says the Gemara. Rava shara Rabbi Acha bar Ada lemigna bar mitalelata mishum sircha de gargishta. Rava gave a heter to Rabbi Acha bar Ada to sleep outside the sukkah because there was a bad odor from the flooring that they had used for the sukkah. It was smelling so bad, it was merely uncomfortable and very unpleasant to stay there. So they say, you know what, this is not a sukkah that you're hayav, you're patur, you could go outside, sleep outside because of the smell. Now, of course, a sukkah that would be pasul, because it's not a place that you could live in, it becomes very questionable if the sukkah itself is kasher altogether. In other words, if you have a sukkah that you can't do one of the main functions in the sukkah because it's not fit for that, for instance, you have this sukkah that smells so bad that you can't sleep in it, you can't live in it, but you want to eat a little sandwich right now, right? So I could hold my nose for a few minutes to go eat my sandwich, bench and come out, right? Or come out and bench, whatever. Is that? No. The whole sukkah could be rendered invalid and pasul, and this is also even for a sukkah that's dangerous. If a sukkah is built in a dangerous place that the ganavim, the robbers and so on, they visit that place normally on a regular basis, and therefore you don't feel comfortable sleeping, living in that sukkah, according to many poskim, that sukkah would be rendered invalid and pasul even for achilah. Right? Hashtag, your front lawn in an apartment, in parking lots and so on, if it's in a neighborhood that you don't feel safe at all, then you have to really discuss that with your Moreh Hora'ah, someone that has worked on this she'ela well, because this is complex. If you want an entire tshuva on it, afterwards I could provide for you. But I've been working on this. This is one of the points that has frustrated me for many years. But again, it becomes a very deep and complicated discussion in halakha for those who built their sukkah in a way that a regular citizen would not feel comfortable in that neighborhood to sleep at night in that sukkah because of the way the sukkah is built or the neighborhood in which it is in. That perhaps could be questionable even if you could sit and have your Sudat Yom Tov in that sukkah as well. Again, it's a bombshell question for people who have those scenarios to discuss it with their Moreh Hora'ah privately. It's not that we're not discussing halacha lema'aseh over here at this moment. Says the Gemara, therefore Rava was matir this because of sircha de gargishta for this fellow to be able to sleep outside the sukkah. Rava letameh, Rava is following his shita da amar Rava mista'er patur min sukkah. That a person that's mista'er, you're not comfortable. It's not a normal living life. It's a scenario in which you would get out of your house if that was happening in your house. Then you could get out of the sukkah as well in that scenario. And now the Gemara is going to challenge this and say, well, we learned the Mishnah that only sick people are patur from the sukkah. You see from that sick people, yes, but people who are a little in sar, no, they should be hayav in sukkah still. Cholin in, mista'er lo. Amri, the Gemara answers, says no. Chole, the difference is, the Mishnah is saying Chole, not only he himself is patur from sukkah, the sick person, but all the people who are helping out with him also are patur from sukkah. But the mista'er, only he is patur from sukkah, but not people around him, not his helpers. Mista'er hu patur mishav lo. If he has servants, the servants still are chayav to stay in the sukkah, but he himself would be only patur, which brings us to the fantastic subject of eating and sleeping in the sukkah, taking naps out of the sukkah during the rabbi's drasha, and all of that, which is going to be a topic that we're going to discuss in the days to come. Hazaku Baruch.